your anxiety is through the roof. You feel like you aren't as happy as you should be, and you don't understand why. And then, of course, guilt comes into it. It's a really interesting time because everyone says, enjoy the bubble.
Enjoy your bubble. Oh, enjoy it.
Fuck
Oh,
off.
I'll never be that small again. I'll never be this stressed out again.
Oh, there we said it. You're listening to the Science Baby podcast with me, Kim.
And me, Leila.
We're two nerdy mums who have researched the crap out of parenthood.
Seriously, you do not want to see our internet search histories.
Each episode, we chat about the why behind pregnancy, birth, and everything that comes after.
Because babies don't come with a manual, but with one born every minute, we reckon we can figure it out.
How's it going? What's new with you?
We have got a nearly 3-year-old. Are you familiar with the term three-nager?
I am not. Oh, God. No. Do I want to know?
We're still 2 months out, but he sees this being 3 on the horizon and has now surrounded himself with every boundary that has ever been presented to him and is pushing at it all the time, constantly.
Just kicking them.
In ballet today, he was literally climbing the walls.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's quite impressive.
Yes.
That is quite impressive.
Yes. And how are you? You are looking fresh-faced and beady-eyed.
Beady-eyed. I've been better.
Oh.
It has to be said. I did some irresponsible Pilates 3 days ago. And by that, I mean, I just went straight into what I used to do after more than a year of very inconsistent practice. So, at least I know I worked hard because I currently feel like I've been hit by a large bus.
Was this part of a resolution?
It was a surge of hubris based on the fact that Stella has started nursery.
Hurrah! Hurrah!
So I came back to an empty house and I was like, what do I do with my time? I'm going to do all the exercise. I'm going to train for an ultramarathon today.
Okay, great.
I'm going to write that novel I've been putting off. Put 17 loads of laundry on.
Amazing.
So I did all of those things apart from the ultramarathon training and the novel.
So was this today or?
It was 3 days ago.
I see. In terms of exercise, I've started doing aquafit, which is water aerobics on account of the bad back. And it's been great, actually. I've been able to get some proper exercise done without hurting myself. But I do like to imagine that I'm a synchronised swimmer. There's a bit where we go into the deep water of the pool and we're cycling our little legs and then doing arms and legs. I'm bobbing out of the water, and it doesn't matter that I'm surrounded by grannies and, the medically unsound, but it's like the oddballs synchronised swimming team.
You're all there together.
Yes, the cool runnings of synchronised swimming, if you will.
Well, that neat. I mean, they've done it with ice skating.
They've got to do it. They've got to do it with synchronised swimming. What's the worst that could happen? A mild drowning. Anyway, you are without a child. I am without a child. They are both secreted in their nurseries. Is she enjoying it?
She is enjoying it. She's sort of on-off teething at the moment, so it's a bit hit and miss. But they're right. So they have got her to sleep independently on the floor every day.
The magicians of nursery practitioners, they just abandon this child on a hard surface. And
I should point out she's on a mattress,
Yes.
but it's still on the floor. And for months, she has refused to sleep unless she's on me, bobbing at a particular frequency. She's been mugging me off this entire time. I'm furious.
Yes, the food situation was similar for us. Oh, he's eaten a lasagna and garlic bread. I'm like, this child has never touched anything red in his life.
It's not fair, is it? It's so funny. Well, fine, take my money.
Yeah.
Just take my money and do the magic, whatever you do.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Right. Should we talk about baby stuff?
I'm really excited about this one.
Yes. Well, it feels like a long time ago for me, and probably not quite as long time ago for you. So, the fourth trimester. It's not something that entered my consciousness when I was in it. I never really heard the term, so I wonder if do you think it's a newish term, or is it just the circles you move in?
It's interesting. Did you go to antenatal classes?
I did.
You did.
But they didn't push it very hard, not as a concept.
I'd heard it quite a lot. I read the book Matrescence as well, which obviously talks a little bit about the immediate changes after birth. But yes, I was aware of the term fourth trimester, but more than anything, I was aware that there was this sort of 12-week point where everything is supposed to be okay again.
That's the danger, isn't it? Because I'm sure we'll get onto it. But the implication when you talk about, pregnancy and birth is that you're pregnant and then you give birth and you've got your baby in your hand and now you're okay. And anyone who's actually been through it knows that that is most certainly not the case. So I guess on the surface of it, what the fourth trimester is seeking to represent is the fact that it's not all okay and there is a period of adjustment, another phase of this mother-baby system that goes on past the actual birth. And in terms of timing, given that pregnancy is split up into the 3 trimesters, each 3 months long, for neatness sake, which I can certainly appreciate, they've decided that the 4th trimester is 3 months long as well. So from age 0 to 12 weeks of your baby, right?
Yeah, and I totally agree. There's a nice chunk of time that does have some basis in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, we live and die by these kind of 3 chunks that each have very different characteristics while we're pregnant.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense just to fall into the same thing.
Yeah. So what I recognised when I was, newly postpartum is what was termed the newborn period, which is notionally like the first 2 months. Whereas the 4th trimester concept extends that to a 3rd month. But I think what we're going to argue is that it ain't so clear cut, regardless, is it?
No, no. And it depends on your baby, it depends on your body, and it depends on what you're doing with your baby, with your breastfeeding, whether, hormonally, you've got a lot going on. There's a lot of variability.
So much variability, yeah. And so just to do a bit of groundwork, so the trimester concept is born of phases within pregnancy that have specific characteristics. And those specific characteristics are caused by the physical and the chemical changes that are taking place in a mother's body. And, for the first 3 trimesters, consequently also the baby's body, because my body is your body. So first trimester is first 3 months, characterized by a hell of a lot of morning sickness, and that's when baby's really becoming a entity, if you like. And then I don't know about you, but my second trimester I was gorgeous.
Well, I wouldn't have known the difference because you're always gorgeous.
Nicely done.
It is a real breath of fresh air, though, for those of us lucky enough to experience a cessation of morning sickness. Mm-hmm. At some point during the pregnancy, mm-hmm. It is just the most wonderful lifting of clouds, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the actual development of the baby, we've got past that 12-week mark, which is typically where the risk of pregnancy loss drops off. So you've got the confidence that your baby's doing what it should be doing in there. And it's kind of gentle growth, relatively gentle hormone cycling, and everything feels quite nice.
I felt completely invincible during my second trimester. Mm-hmm. I had that kind of peace of mind that the pregnancy was progressing well so far, mm-hmm. and you're not the size of a house yet, so you can still move around and do most things that you used to. And I was just thinking, I am smashing this. I can do everything I used to do, maybe not go for a big run, but I can lift stuff, mm-hmm. and whatnot. And then and my personal experience was that went on for quite a long time, but then very suddenly fell off a cliff, mm-hmm. at the end of my pregnancy, mm-hmm. and it was really frustrating.
The 3rd trimester brings with it a whole new surge of hormones, a whole surge of big physical changes, because now you have a viable human being inside you, right? So for me, that was where my body just fell apart. My hips just went, and my stretch marks went, whoa. I think a lot of the pain and the difficulties do come towards the end of the 3rd trimester. But the 3rd trimester is defined by those last 3 months, and so that starts at 24 weeks.
24 weeks is the point of viability, isn't it?
Yeah, basically that baby will, with the appropriate medical attention, have a good chance of surviving. And obviously that chance increases the later through the 3rd trimester the baby is born.
Yeah. I had a really twisted tick list during my 3rd trimester, where for some reason I went into a deep dive of kind of a level of care required with different ages of premature babies. And I learned that there are 3 levels of care. Obviously, the highest level being more appropriate to the earlier babies
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. So like it was really weird. I used to like kind of bound up to Jake saying, "Oh, today's the day where if our baby's born, she'll only be on the second level of emergency care. Isn't that exciting?"
Wow,
And he's like, I'm trying to eat my dinner, Kim, actually. Do you mind?"
didn't
It's
really want to be
really
thinking
weird.
about that right now.
So
I think
weird.
it's very thoughtful
Anyway.
of you to give him a little taste of how unhinged you were going to be as a mother already. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, very, very selfless of me. Anyway, but yes, so 24 weeks is a really interesting point because not many of us are actually ready to welcome the
Good
baby
Lord, no.
physically,
No.
but mentally, financially, logistically.
And yet, baby is in a position where their bodies could learn to function with a little assistance. Yeah, so all of those changes and those three kind of chapters of your pregnancy are essentially governed by what is going on inside your body. And as we've talked about, pregnancy is governed by hormones and organs that grow inside you to be discarded. And so once birth happens, yes, that mother baby system, organ system, is different, like they are separated, but there are still massive hormonal and physiological changes that are going on. And I think, it might be a bit of a sea change in how it's being portrayed, but I wasn't prepared for how shit I would feel those first 3 months, basically. And I think a lot of women aren't prepared for it because they're expected to sort of get their baby and off they go.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strangeness in the experience, isn't there? There are very high highs and very low lows
Hmm.
emotionally and physically. And I think it's one of those things that's really impossible to imagine, isn't it? Until it happens to you. And of course, everyone's experience is very different
Hmm.
as well.
One word I keep coming across when reading about the fourth trimester is overwhelming. And I think that catches a lot of things because essentially everybody's experience is different, but it is so different to anything you will have experienced before. It can come as a shock and it can be overwhelming. And the fact that you think that you are a singular person now, you should be back to normal. The fact that it's not that easy, you can't kind of will yourself to normal. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's a lot.
And I think one thing that the word overwhelming captures perfectly is I think the thing that catches a lot of people out is the sense of it being all consuming in a way that you haven't experienced or didn't anticipate.
Hmm.
The fact that you can't press the pause button on it.
No.
That's the thing that we've talked about before, and certainly the thing that Jake and I found the hardest, and
Mm.
probably a lot of parents. So I think the word overwhelming is incredibly useful
Yes.
there.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, the fourth trimester is all about trying to deal with that situation whilst also undergoing probably the hardest hormonal and physical changes of your life.
Yes. But also, so is the new person in the room.
True.
Because that new person is going through a lot.
Yeah, they've just arrived on the planet and then wondering what on earth is going on because they're also not ready to be born yet,
No. No,
physiologically.
no. So birth happens, and now we are at the fourth trimester. What is going on? In terms of the baby, this thing has spent the last 9 months in a warm, soft, muffled, dark environment. They don't have anything to worry about, nothing's poking at them. They might get the occasional loud noise, but they can see dim red lights passing through the wall of the uterus, which I find completely weird. And then all of a sudden, they are thrust into this entirely new experience, and they don't even know how to experience experiences. They don't even know how to process any of that. And it's a contrast to everything they've experienced. It's bright, it's loud, it's cold, it's bumpy. There's all kinds of things going on. It's overstimulating, basically. And so, basically, from the moment of birth onwards, this neurologically underdeveloped creature has to learn how to deal with that. And I mean, we are neurologically developed, but I don't think we as adults would take to that straight away, would we?
No, and it's crazy how little I had considered that. And it's something that came up in our antenatal classes is don't think that the baby has got it in for you. They're going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important
Yeah.
to repeat.
There's a phrase that is rattling around the internet a lot. They're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And I think this is where the culture has shifted a lot into recognizing that they're having a hard time and there's all this change. And actually, to help that baby deal with the fourth trimester, to deal with these big changes, the best thing you can do as a parent is to try and make their experience as close to what they would expect it to be. You know, it's things like lots of skin to skin, so they can still sense your heartbeat, so they can still sense your warmth. Carrying them in a sling, I mean, that is something that has come on so much in the last 10 years or so, even less probably. Like, baby wearing is so beneficial for like keeping baby swaddled, warm next to you. Things like feeding on demand, because obviously through the placenta they were able to get nutrition whenever they wanted, and letting them sleep on demand, which to anybody who's new to parenthood now might seem, well, yeah, that's obvious. But our parents' generation, it was very much not the case. You know, in the past, it was believed that you would want to get your baby onto a sleep schedule or a feed schedule, and it would be something determined by literally the time on the clock rather than what baby needed or whether they were hungry or not. And so there has been that sort of sea change in terms of being more responsive to your baby to help them through this difficult time.
Yeah, and there was very much a movement in previous generations that wasn't necessarily driven by women or people who'd had children. I'll just leave that there. About there was a movement towards teaching people how to parent based on the idea of not spoiling your child.
Definitely.
You mustn't spoil your child.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What are you talking about? They're barely a human.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There is this concept that you're going to spoil them. And that is something that's worth thinking about 3 years on, but not necessarily 3 months on, because I remember them telling us at antenatal, they can't play you. They're not playing you off against each other. They're not tricking you. They have literally got half a brain. So
yeah.
they're just trying to exist.
And they're scared, and I don't know if this is true. I haven't been able to substantiate this, but cognitively I was told that the baby needs a certain amount of time after birth to understand that they are a separate human being to you.
Yes, and I keep hearing of a huge range of ages for that, from the newborn period right up to like a year old. And so I think, depending on how you test it, there is this idea that, yeah, they don't actually realise that they are separate, that they have been separated from you. And sure, yeah, you can ram that separation home by saying, no, you're going to sleep 12 hours a night and you're going to eat at normal meal times and no other time. But that's not going to help them developmentally, ultimately, and emotionally. You know, because of this big change, babies will cry in those first 3 months more than they will at any other time in their life.
That's a fact, isn't it?
Because they're so freaked out by it.
You and me both, baby. You and me both. But that's a really, really interesting fact that I hadn't come across before. And it's of course, it's true as soon as you sit down and think about it. But it's also extremely revealing, isn't it, about what they're going through?
Absolutely, yeah. It's tempting to sort of see it from our point of view of like, we're going through a hard time and now, you know, they just won't stop crying and that's making it really hard. And it is really hard, and that's, you know, definitely not downplaying that by any means, but it is a signal that they are really unhappy too. And there are really simple things that we can do, which also help us, to try and ease that distress. Because feeding regularly, sleeping regularly, not trying to get up and be a strong, independent woman, actually serves a woman who's just gone through pregnancy and birth as well, because they deserve to relax also.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? What we have to go through as babies is mad, and it's no wonder we can't remember it. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God we don't have the necessary circuits to commit that to memory, because that is wild.
So that's kind of caring for your baby and understanding where they're coming from. But all of that is probably more easily said than done, because you, as a new mother, are also going through your own stuff, right?
Yeah, there's stuff going on, and you're dealing with this baby who doesn't know which way is up. And you're potentially quite severely injured.
Exactly, yeah. I've found an incredible statistic that up to 45% of women report some form of trauma during their birth.
Yeah, that's mad.
And now that could be emotional trauma, it could be physical trauma. You know, we're not talking about literal losing of legs, but there's tears, there's prolapses, there's the worry, and about 5% end up with something like PTSD. So it's not a rare case by any means that the birth process is not this beautiful, slithery, loving, you know, like doing a really satisfying poo.
Why did you have to use the word slithery?
Because
Was that necessary?
that's how I imagine a unmedicated, beautiful. You know, it's the birth that everybody says that they want to have, right? Where it just like
Yeah.
you just go, oh, and then out comes a baby.
Were you expecting to give birth to an eel?
I mean, they're wet in there, aren't they?
Oh God, that's an image I didn't need.
Some people I've spoken to did describe it a bit like that. Like, didn't have to push. And, oh, it was just like doing a big poo. For them, I am so happy. But
Awesome.
I think even the remotest expectation that it might feel like that is going to set you up for disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this may be touched on at some point in the podcast, but we're recording this at a time when there's quite a lot of toing and froing with the kind of natural birth influencer culture. There's a lot of backlash with that, and some real tragic stuff's happened, and it's a really complicated thing, isn't it? But ultimately, don't expect it to go perfectly.
Yeah. You know, the statistics recently came out that C-sections are more common than uninstrumental vaginal birth. So between instruments and C-sections, that is the norm in the UK, at any rate. And so that is an experience, you know, it's a very interventionalist, very hands-on experience, and it takes a little while to come back from that, physically and mentally. And so all of that is happening to the physical makeup of your body. Meanwhile, hormones are doing something mental.
Oh my goodness, completely. I don't know if you experienced the baby blues, the hormone dump, but this was kind of the first real roller coaster that I went through when we got Stella home. Was this, and it did actually happen on day 3 for me. That's around the average of when it happens, but it's generally within a few days of birth. Because your placenta has been removed, your placenta is the thing that's pumping a load of hormones like progesterone and estrogen into your body to support the pregnancy and make your body do things that it needs to do. And so what happens is once you deliver the placenta during the birth, those hormones just stop. It's a sudden and almost total loss of those hormones, and both progesterone and estrogen in their own ways affect mood. And so that crash of hormones makes you feel like you're losing your mind.
It sounds unprecedented in the rest of your existence. There's no other process, short of literally losing your pituitary gland, where you would experience such a sudden cut-off. It's like withdrawal, essentially, isn't it? Going into withdrawal from these hormones.
100%. And I was told that the hormone dump is equivalent in magnitude to coming off the pill cold turkey 100 times at once. But my experience personally was tearfulness, anxiety. The sundown scaries were a big thing for me.
What's that?
So anecdotally, the worst emotions tend to come out around sunset.
I see.
I don't know whether there's a circadian rhythm thing going on biologically, but emotionally it seems to be in anticipation of a long night of an unsettled baby, because obviously they're still in a stage where they have no circadian rhythm, and so they're up at random times. So nights are going to be long and hard still at this stage in the first few days. So the sundown scaries is a term I came across early in my fourth trimester, and I was like, oh my God, other people. This happens to other people. This is amazing. And I will say, this is the one thing I will send to every friend of mine who has a first child. From now on, I'm going to text them a need to know list. That's going to be at the top of it. My friend did that for me. She said, I need to tell you about the day 3 hormone dump so that you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most generous things someone did for me during pregnancy. What was your experience of this?
It was fine. I knew it was supposed to happen, and I almost was in denial about it. And so I was like, nope, I feel fine. I feel fine. I feel fine. But it was day 5 that it hit really hard for me. And again, I sort of rationalised it. I had a special dressing on my C-section scar because of how swollen it was. And it had a pump on it. And so I was walking around with this literal machine on me for 5 days. And I went into my postnatal appointment and I was expecting to get it off. And they said, no, it has to stay on for another 2 days. And that was the end of the world. And I think I'd kind of rationalised everything into that. And then, yeah, everything just fell apart. And so, yeah, day 5 was a really low day. So I suspect probably I did get the hormone dump, but I sort of mentally powered through. Can you even do that? I don't know. But then let it all fall apart later on, which is kind of a theme for how I manage a lot of my emotions. So yeah.
Absolutely boss it 99.9% of the way.
And then have a massive explosion.
And then there's a minor inconvenience. And you're like, ah! Yeah, I can relate to that, my friend. But yeah, so this hormone dump is wild. And then at the same time, your body is getting ready to feed your baby. And so you have your milk come in. I remember, I don't know if it was on day 3 or 4, I woke up and my milk had come in and I was in excruciating pain. And I was like, what fresh hell is this? I didn't think it was going to get any worse than this. And that was just like, oh God, it's just another thing. And so you've got these other hormones like prolactin, which stimulates milk production, and oxytocin, which is a lovely hormone but is doing a lot of work inside your body at the moment. So you've got this up and down of emotions that is really quite scary. And I think a lot of people think they're losing their mind. And of course, this is very normal, but you can then get into a situation where you have a longer term emotional distress, and we start to get into the territory of clinical depression, and then things get really horrible. And thankfully that isn't the most common experience of women, but it happens a lot.
So I'd like to know a little bit more about kind of the roles of these hormones that you've mentioned, because we talk about progesterone and estrogen and prolactin and oxytocin in terms of their roles within pregnancy and growing a baby and getting your milk in. Oxytocin helps a lot during labour. But what does it mean to suddenly lose it? Because obviously you don't need it for growing a baby anymore. So is it a big deal? What's going on?
So progesterone is known in the popular science media as nature's tranquilizer.
Nature's tranquilizer.
Yes.
I love that.
Which is really cool. So it basically gets metabolized into something else in the brain, which has a kind of anti-anxiety calming effect. So basically when these two hormones, progesterone and estrogen, suddenly disappear from your body, all of those effects go away. And suddenly your anxiety is through the roof. You feel like you aren't as happy as you should be, and you don't understand why. And then, of course, guilt comes into it. And yeah, it's a really interesting time because everyone says, enjoy the bubble.
Enjoy your bubble. Oh, enjoy it. Oh, I'll never be that small again. I'll never be this stressed out again.
Oh, there we said it. She said it. I mean, they're cute, but they're hard work, aren't they? Yes, so basically it's really interesting biological hurricane that is happening inside your body. And like we said before, you have oxytocin, which is also really, really important and doing a lot of work in your body at this time. And so you can kind of get these rushes of love as well. So you're kind of going to and fro.
It's a very unstable time, isn't it?
Very unstable.
Very unstable. It helps to lean into the definition of the fourth trimester, because all of those things tend to improve because everyone's got a slightly better idea of what they're doing. Yeah. And it's taken 3 months for you to get to know what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the case biologically and in terms of your skill development.
Yeah. And emotionally as well, because maybe everybody's less freaked out about it because it's not all so brand new.
No.
I definitely felt like after a period, and I couldn't tell you what that period was, I did feel more confident in my ability to keep a child alive. And I think Felix, as a 3-month-old, whatever, felt more confident that I wasn't about to change his whole world order once again. And so we did get into more of a routine. I mean, so much of what we've talked about it's not like you're going to hit the 3-month mark and everything is going to change, is it?
Oh, that would have been lovely. But yeah, I think to some extent, the 3 months mark, as you say, was the time when we also felt like, oh, we can probably keep this baby alive now. I feel like I understand how she works a little bit more. And that is the case with, I think, a lot of people, which is
Mhm.
probably part of what underpins this idea of the fourth trimester, because it does tally up a lot with experience in some way.
Mhm.
Did you know that smoking takes 10 years off the smoker's life? I mean, we all know smoking's bad for us. Did you also know that poverty, living in poverty, takes 10 years off of your life as well? Shocking, isn't it? Considering it's not the same as filling your lungs with toxins every day. And did you know that if you live in poverty, not only are you likely to live 10 years less, but your neighbors and yourself, you'll probably have at least one health condition. 50% of you will actually have two. 25% of you will have three or more. So not only are you going to live a shorter life, you're going to live it in worse health. And what's really shocking, what the real kicker is that if you are living in a nicer neighborhood, well, it doesn't really matter if you smoke. You're still going to live longer. And for the first time in generations, we are not living as long as the generation before us. If you live in poor circumstances, your health is impacted. When a country is unhealthy, it does poorly across the board. All of these forces are coming together to create a perfect storm to make Britain unhealthy. Welcome to Sick Society, a prestige health and society podcast hosted by myself, Dr. Alexis Payton, and my co-host, Sir Andrew Goddard. Each season, we explore the social, political, and economic forces that are shaping our health, from climate change to misinformation. Listen to Sick Society today, wherever you get your podcasts.
Tell me about breastfeeding.
Well, so I struggled to establish breastfeeding. I should say Stella and I struggled to establish breastfeeding because it is a team sport. And so that really added to the stress. In fact, that was probably the most stressful thing. And we've talked about this before. Because I wasn't recovering from a particularly traumatic birth, compared to everything else, the breastfeeding establishment was the most stressful thing about postpartum. And it took a long time to figure itself out. And actually, we turned a corner around the 4 month mark. So we're kind of coming out of this fourth trimester. We're persevering, but it's not easy. And then suddenly everything just, without us noticing, became a lot easier. And I was told by a breastfeeding consultant later that 4 months is around the time a lot of women turn the corner with breastfeeding.
Gosh, that's such a long time to struggle for.
Such a long time, Leila. It's such a long time. Yeah. And it seems to be because obviously you're more practiced by that point. The baby is physically a lot bigger and a lot stronger and probably a lot more skilled now. So it seems to be the time when everyone kind of learns what they're doing and it becomes a bit easier. But that means you've got this entire fourth trimester full of just stress and probably pumping formula top ups, triple feeding, doing all of this business.
Anxiety over the milk math. Yeah, all of that.
100%. Dealing with mastitis because you can't empty your boobs properly because the baby can't bloody latch. It's a lot. And I have so much sympathy for women who are going through that. But it all kind of happens at the same time as everything else. And there are things that then start to diverge in terms of your experience between breastfeeders and non-breastfeeders, because breastfeeding obviously has a lot of hormones associated with it, which means that your body is doing slightly different things to someone who has stopped breastfeeding. So what I think is very interesting about the fourth trimester is after birth, you know, we talked about the hormone dump straight afterwards, but what's happening during your fourth trimester is that your estrogen is very slowly starting to ramp up again, approaching normal levels by around the end of the fourth trimester, on average. Again, wild variation. So you get to this point where your period might start coming back, you start ovulating again, and maybe hormonally you start to feel a little bit more like yourself again towards the end of the fourth trimester. So yeah, towards the end of the fourth trimester, as your estrogen levels start to hopefully stabilize, your period might come back, but also this brings a few other small reliefs potentially. You know, symptoms of low estrogen are low libido, vaginal dryness. You know, your sex life is probably not what it used to be in the fourth trimester. And one, you're trying to look after a baby and trying to not hate your partner when he breathes wrong. But that is hormonal, it's biologically underpinned as well. So cut yourself some slack, and hopefully everyone at home is cutting you some slack as well. But yeah, those things in theory should start to even out again by the end of the fourth trimester.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I shall look forward to that. When's that going to happen?
Oh, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Just easy as that. Easy.
Easy as that. Yeah, straight back.
But of course, that isn't the case if you're breastfeeding, because your body is making prolactin in order to produce milk, and that suppresses estrogen, which stops you ovulating. So basically, it is nature's contraceptive. I personally, when 9 months in, my cycle hasn't restarted because we're still breastfeeding. And so I'm a bit worried because we've started solids, as we've talked about a lot. And so I am gradually weaning, and I've already started to get symptoms of another kind of hormone dump off and on. So I think my hormones have gone a bit wanky again as the kind of prolactin's dropping a bit. And I have heard anecdotally that you get another kind of hormone dump like downer when you properly start weaning.
Yeah.
As you breastfeed less and less, you get prolactin decreasing, but also you get oxytocin decreasing in your body. And so, of course, we probably know oxytocin is the love hormone. So you're dealing with, kind of plummeting feel-good hormones here at weaning, as well as directly after birth with that kind of hormone crash before. So, lots of bumps in the road hormonally.
So how are you? How are you?
No, I'm all right, actually. Fine. It's fine. I think when I recognised just before Christmas that my feeling a bit out of sorts was probably hormonal, it all got a bit easier, because I was like, actually, that makes total sense. I Googled it. I was like, why do I feel like I hate the world? And then I kind of found something about weaning and hormonal changes during weaning. So I'm just going to put it down to that for now while I can.
I hope that this is partly what this podcast is serving to do for people, is to actually provide some of that reassurance that they're not terrible people, and a lot of these things are totally normal, and you're not alone in feeling like that.
And of course, the timing depends on when you decide to stop breastfeeding or are forced to stop breastfeeding. So I think that's really important to get across, is like, you must expect that, and it's not because you're losing your mind. I know a few people who have been forced to stop breastfeeding cold turkey, and I think that's the worst you can have. That's the kind of the total cliff drop. Whereas a lot of people have the luxury of weaning gradually. So I think that modulates the effects somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped producing milk about 2 months in, and so it wasn't cold turkey, it was very much a gradual transition. So my changes all did seem to happen around that fourth trimester mark. So textbook hormone change happening at the right time.
So did you notice hormonal mood changes when your milk went away?
One thing I have noticed is that since my periods came back after those first couple of months, I get much more intense mood swings. I feel the effects of the hormones much more intensely than I ever did. And I don't know if that's as a result of the priming of my body by pregnancy or by the IVF medication that I had, but I feel like either I'm a lot more sensitive to it, or the amount that my body is creating is much greater. But that premenstrual slump is the worst experience of my life, and I just don't want to exist for like a day. Whereas before I wouldn't really ever notice any changes in my mood and emotional state. So that is one thing I've noticed. I don't understand the science behind it, but it's definitely related to this timing in my life.
That's very interesting. I wonder what the basis of that. It would make sense that your hormones also come back to a new normal, because they're essentially, the system is essentially resetting. That's probably not true at all. But that's how I think
we've turned it off and on again. It's no, but essentially that's removing the placenta is like turning it off, turning off the production of these major female hormones and letting them build up again and finding a new normal. So I can imagine that that's definitely something that's going on.
Yeah. I wonder how, because I wouldn't want to speak for both of us, but I had children relatively late in life. So perimenopause is going to start being a thing.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a whole new thing. Tremendous.
It's like, oh, wait, what is it today? Right, is it perimenopause? Am I about to have my period, or am I pregnant? Let's go for the full house. Did you get the night sweats?
There were so many fluids at bedtime. Oh my God. It's not nice to think of, but everybody's been through it. But yeah, there's a point where you're still bleeding, you're leaking from the breast, you're sweaty, you're crying, the child spits up on you. And
You've weed yourself.
I mean, it's been known to happen. I think that was a real low point for me, just how on not even unattractive, because attractive wasn't even on the cards, but like I just felt so gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, the night sweats are a thing as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't notice them, but a lot of people in my antenatal group at a certain period, like a couple of days after giving birth, a lot of messages started going back and forth saying, "Is anyone sweating a lot? Have I? Am I dying?" But then we all kind of like did a Google and figured out, no, that's a thing. Oh, great! Thanks for telling us. But it's your body is amazing, because basically what's happening is when you're pregnant, obviously because you're growing a human, you have around 50%, so half again more of blood circulating around your whole system.
That's mad. No wonder we feel heavy and bloated.
Yeah, but that blood doesn't just, I mean, in fairness, a lot of it probably comes out during delivery.
Yeah, but not like a third of your total supply.
Yeah, exactly. So this 50% or whatever's left needs to go somewhere. It's no longer needed. And obviously blood, as we can probably guess, is mostly just fluids with a load of red blood cells in and a few other things. So your body has got to get rid of these fluids and fast. So it just starts excreting it out of every bit. So the pores, and I think I needed to wee a lot. I think that was what was happening.
Oh, it's a lot of weeing, yeah. Awful lot of weeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a thing. So yeah, it's not the most attractive or dignified time of life.
Certainly not. Dignified, I think that's it. It's like you don't have any dignity. It's just so disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting now for me, sort of stepping forward to the 9-month mark, is related to something that happens during late pregnancy. So this thing called relaxin is circulating around your body, and what that does is it loosens up all your ligaments and muscles and skeleton and makes you just a bit more bendy and a bit more pliable. Of course, very, very helpful, because you need to fit a human head through your pelvis and it needs help to kind of loosen up a bit. So your relaxin is no longer needed after pregnancy, but it's still higher in your body than it was before pregnancy. And so I didn't know, but you are like so much more prone to injury when you exercise.
Oh, really?
Just after
Yeah.
so certainly in your fourth trimester, if you're trying to like bounce back, as the media will have you believe is necessary. So it's something I'm wondering about at the moment, because I seem to be injuring myself a lot and I'm not really capable of doing exercise that I am used to being capable of doing. And I'm wondering if relaxin's got something to do with it. Either is it still high in my body and, I'm just a bit less stable, or is my relaxin now gone down and actually I'm starting to stiffen up again and it doesn't feel very nice. But relaxin is really interesting postpartum because it makes your body just feel different, because a lot of women are like, I don't feel like I'm in my body, and the relaxin is a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the realms of doing anything approximating exercise for a long time after the birth, but I can feel that my body functions differently. My joints do feel a lot looser even now. So I don't know. I don't know when it's going to be dropping down, but I definitely feel like there has been a shift in my pre-child having body to now, of whether it's as a result of the relaxing and the joints settling into new positions, or the fact that my muscular structure has changed because of the role of the relaxing for the last year, 2 years. It's quite scary.
Yeah.
Very disconcerting. Yeah.
Because I think obviously there is work you can do to become strong and fit postpartum, but the reality is that your body is going to settle, but it's going to settle to a new normal. Your body is fundamentally going to be a different shape. My rib cage is wider now. I think that's probably the case for a lot of women postpartum. So I think especially during the fourth trimester, you are kind of coming to terms with a new body, and I don't think many people realise that it's not something that you're going to be able to return to completely.
So obviously your hormones are going haywire, related or otherwise to breastfeeding journey, but also the way that our bodies are affected. That is not something that's going to right itself within 3 months necessarily. And we talked about the relaxin, but also the amount of iron in your blood and the things that your body needs to keep stable, to keep you going. Over half of women don't recover that within their first 3 months. Some of them do, which is great, but more than half just don't. And it can take years for everything to go back to normal, if it ever does, right?
Yeah, and that's what we seem to be hearing from mums of slightly older kids time and time again is you can't expect to feel like yourself for potentially for years. And if you don't feel like yourself at the 3 month mark, don't worry, that's because that's the reality.
Yeah, that's true. Whether you've had a traumatic birth or any form of birth or pregnancy injury or not, because we hear about people who took a long time to recover from tears or have prolapses or difficulties in the lower abdomen. And that is obviously related to the traumatic nature of a human exiting their vagina or otherwise. I count myself amongst that. I'm still bearing lower abdominal issues from the C-section. But even if you've had an uneventful birth, you could still have imbalances in, like you say, relaxin or iron levels or things like that they're going to take a long time to get back to normal. I hasten to say the word normal, but a level you're comfortable with.
Yeah, you still had a baby inside your body, and that baby has exited somehow. Very suddenly.
Very suddenly.
And so there's really no getting away from it. It's a lot for your body to recover from. And there's no evolutionary reason why it would ever recover perfectly.
Other than to be able to do it again. But if anything, it's going to recover in a way that will allow you to do it again more easily. So, yeah, expect a flappier everything from now on.
and a complete lapse of memory as to how bad it was the first time.
Exactly, yes. That's convenient, isn't it?
Oh, God. And one thing that I'm still working on is the abdominal muscles coming back together. Your body does a lot of work to knit your muscles back together within a few weeks of delivery. But it's not 100%. And so it takes work to bring them back together. And that's something I'm still living with, 9 months in. I'm still really struggling with some lifting that I'm surprised by. So I've got a lot of work to do to get back. And in theory, we're past the fourth trimester. So
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, past the, I don't know what trimester we would be in now with Felix and it being nearly 3, but at my Oddballs synchronised swimming class, there's a move where we put a float in between our knees and have the knees at the surface of the water and then have to try and stand up. You just have to put your legs down.
Oh, gosh.
I tell you what, it was a wake-up call.
Gosh.
I have nothing. It's just pure jelly inside. There is no strength in my abdomen. So, that is definitely something that is still lingering. And I'm partly blaming the pregnancy. I'm also partly blaming my extreme idleness for the last 3 years.
But that's the thing. You don't have the same body that you started with. And so give yourself some slack.
No, you are changed, ultimately. And I think, if anything, the fourth trimester is a way to get used to that rather than to change it. And I would say that the take home from all of this is that it's a chance to cut yourself some slack. Don't listen to what the media says about bouncing back and getting back to normal in terms of your body, in terms of your emotions, in terms of your skills, and in terms of your role in society. The fourth trimester is a concept, an idea that we can take those 3 months and take them and own them. But also, if it goes beyond 3 months for your own personal reasons, that's totally fine too. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, I couldn't put it better. And going back to what you said before, having a baby is overwhelming in every complete sense of the word. If your friend was going through something overwhelming, you wouldn't expect them to be their best selves.
No.
So you shouldn't expect it of yourself either.
It's just the media and the patriarchy that expects that of us.
The patriarchy! We had to get it in, didn't we? That's it for this week's episode of the Science Baby podcast.
How did you find your fourth trimester? Or how are you finding it?
Join the chat on Instagram or find every podcast episode at thesciencebaby.com.
See you next time.